Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to talk a little bit about starting your piece and finishing your artwork. We are going to go through some technical things, how to actually start your canvas, what you need to do for a primer, and what you can do for a fixative to finish your piece. And then we're going to go into some ideas on how to motivate yourself to start and how do you know when a piece is finalized or complete. So some of you in my network have asked about how to start a piece. If you are new to art, there are tons and tons of primers out there and tons of fixatives. I am just going to show you what I use on a regular basis, but you're going to have to experiment a little bit on your own as well. Starting a piece. So a substrate is, canvas, paper, wood panel, glass, it's whatever you're working on. There are some canvases that come primed and some that come unprimed. If it is unprimed, you will need to put a primer on. So a primer is your clear gesso or your white gesso. And I just get these really large, 32 fluent ounce ones from Liquitex. And this is gonna allow the medium to not get absorbed into your substrate. And not if you're working on canvas, it doesn't fall through the weave. So it primes the surface so that this paint doesn't seep all the way through, or your charcoal or whatever. So whatever medium you're using, you're gonna want to use a primer such as gesso. At the very end, when you're done with your piece, you feel like it's finalized, you're going to want to put a varnish or, the varnish or a fixative. I like to use this Golden's Mineral Spray acrylic aerosol, and this is going to protect it from dust, moisture, UV light so that it doesn't yellow over time. Now, I use this if I'm going to be using acrylics, pastels, watercolors, but if I'm using a lot of charcoal or things that smear like pencil, I'm going to use this pastel fixative from Sennelier, which is my absolute favorite. It goes on smoothly, and that's the other reason I like the Goldens. There's a lot of, a ton of them. Krylon has some, but I like that this Golden goes on really smooth. So with your fixatives, you can get a flat varnish, you can get a satin, which is a little bit of a shine. You can get your gloss and your high gloss. So if I have like a really organic piece, I'm gonna want to put probably a flat fixative, so it has that kind of matte finish to it. And then if I'm working on a really modern abstract piece, I might go in with a high gloss varnish. Now, if you are working in oil paints, you're gonna wanna wait for it to dry or cure, and then you're gonna come in with like a Damar varnish. This is my favorite. And again, you can get it, I think this is a high gloss, but you can get it in any luster that you want. So those are the basics of the technical side, and we'll jump into how to start and finish on more of a concept side. All right, starting your piece. There are days that we all have that you are flooded with ideas and you have so much energy and you don't have enough time to put down all your wonderful, beautiful ideas onto the canvas. On those days, I'm obviously not worried about starting because I have so much to get me going. But on those days, I write down my ideas if I don't get to them or I don't have time, and I throw them in a basket because on those rainy days where you're feeling kind of uninspired, you can go back to that basket and I'll put them on, scratches of paper, whatever is close by, and just throw it in the basket. I used to put it in journals, and then I couldn't find the journal, I couldn't find the idea. Now I kind of just go back to this and I pull out ideas and I think, oh, is this inspiring today? And some days it is inspiring, and some days it means nothing to me. So, but it sometimes it can spark something. I also like to collect images from magazines, maybe something that inspired me on Pinterest or on the internet. And these don't always have to make sense. There was a period of time where I found all these black and white photos of like women playing in the water in the ocean. And again, there's some days that this image might spark something for me and some days it might not. But if it does, maybe it's taking me back to a dream or a trip I had or a memory that can spark something bigger into your piece. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be painting this exact picture. Maybe I'm painting an abstract based on one of my memories at the ocean that just kind of takes me back to that moment. Other things I put in here, I will put interior decorating images. I'll put quotes in here. I will put textiles that, black and white patterning. Sometimes I have images that just inspire my color palette. And sometimes that alone can spark a piece. The colors can, draw me into something. Maybe it's an image of a flower and that scent through that image is bringing me back to another time that I want to create in my piece. So absolutely go back to this. You can have one separate for your notes and one of just random images that inspire you. How do you know when a piece is finished? You could never be done with a piece. I have had artwork up in a gallery and been like, oh, I wish I could tweak it now. And sometimes you do. If it doesn't sell, you can tweak it afterwards. But at a certain point, you need to say, okay, I'm done with this. I want to put it up on my shop. Ways I do that, I like to, step away from it for a couple days. Come back to it with like a new, fresh set of eyes. If you're working flat, like on your desk, then prop it up onto an easel, and that can give it a different perspective, or vice versa. Work on an easel and then put it flat, because it can look different at different angles. Sometimes I like to just take a photograph of it to see. Sometimes with my eyes, I see something entirely different than if I photograph the work, and I'll photograph it and I'll think, oh, it needs more contrast, or, if it's a portrait, maybe the features are off a little bit. So those are the ways I would suggest. Take some time away, take a photograph, work from different angles, and sometimes you can ask a friend or family member. Their insight and perspective can really, really be so insightful. And it doesn't have to be an artist friend. Sometimes my friends that say they're not creative, they're not artists, are the best viewers, because not everyone that is purchasing your artwork is going to be the artist himself. In fact, most people probably will not be. So you want their perspective as well. Finally, I did have someone ask me how to frame their pieces. There are, a million framing places out there online or locally. I like to work with pictureframes.com online. It's quick, it's affordable. Framing can get very expensive. And I also work with a local vendor. So sometimes I don't really know how to finish the piece, and they can suggest some really great framing options. Another thing you can do, you can work on these wrapped canvases, and you can finish them by painting, completely over it, or you can make different designs or different colors on the edges. These can be framed as is. You just put a wire on the back. Wood panels are another great option because they don't necessarily need a frame. They look like almost like they're in a frame when you're completed. Now here is another wood panel that I've decided to put a floater frame on. So this just goes around, and I own a lot of these in this like raw maple. as well as in this black wood that I love. They're simple. I don't like frames that are too ornate. I like very simple because it will go into a lot of different houses. But you can also ask your client, let's say you're painting a piece, you're not sure how to frame it, and you already have a buyer for it. You can ask your buyer if they have a particular frame, so you can charge them for the art piece and then charge them after the fact for the frame. Or you can have it unframed on your website, and then if you can say framing available upon request, and then you can give them the options or work through the options with your client. So I hope that helps you get from start to finish, from idea to concept, as well as how to actually finalize your pieces with your primers and fixatives. Thank you for joining me today.